Go Loud presents the Talking Bollox podcast.
What you waiting for? Put your back in it. Just a little more. Throw your weight in it now. Tell your body you're ten. Walk it hard and long. When you finish that,
The hip knocker.
go down, go down, go down. Come up.
Here we go, episode 40, Talking Bollox podcast. It's me, COB,
It's me, Terry Flower.
and today we're joined by
Wayne Hart.
Wayne. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming in to talk to us.
Thanks for the invite.
No problem.
Right, this week we're jumping straight into the jingles. Yeah, get everything boxed off and out of the way, right? Years ago, did you ever play the game where four people got a letter, and you have to get the letter out of them by killing them?
No.
No? Right, well anyways, we called the bash the letter years ago, yeah?
You never
And
played Bash the Letter?
Never played.
Never
you
even
heard
heard
of
of
it?
it?
Bash the Bishop.
Oh,
I don't
oh, I
know.
don't know. you have to chase your mates and batter them until he tell you something.
No, we didn't tell us that. We just chased and bait. We used to call it bait chasing.
But anyways, IRA baiting 69%, bash the letter 31%. I'm fuming over that.
Yeah, I can't believe we had Mick Conlon on last week and we had to say to him, do you call it IRA Baines? So that was a bit of an awkward one.
It was.
Gangsters.
Well, look, we're getting away with it.
And then, what would you rather, Nike or Adidas, Wayne?
Oh, no, you call the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same as myself.
Same as myself. People were texting saying anyone that says Nike hasn't got any Yeezys. So I've played in 4 or 5 pairs of Yeezys and I still bleed and pick Nike all day.
Yeah, 100%. Nike 87%, Adidas 13%.
Yeah. Right, so this week, you haven't got one for this week, do you?
No zinger again, so will you sort me out? Send me some good zingers. There's
Right.
nothing left.
I have one, right, Wayne? Do you know when years ago when you're on a push bike and you're giving your mate a lift on the back? What do you call that?
A backer.
A back on,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
He's one of the boys, yeah.
100%. There's only first time robbery on a bleeding BMX.
Someone on the stunt move.
Shotgun. Tied to the thing. A sauna, 15 years of age. Yeah.
Did you
How
really?
straight?
Mate on the back, yeah.
I'm about to be in there, break me bollocks laughing. He's flying around on a BMX or a shotgun.
Right, well, there's people texting us saying they call it a jant.
That's on the back of a truck. You used to call that a jant.
No, that's scutting.
Scutting as well,
Scutting,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
would have said scutting for that one as
Yeah, well,
well.
there's
Yeah.
a good thing out there, isn't it?
Oh, there you're at. So if you jump on the back of a yoke, what's it, a jant or a scut?
You hang,
Yeah.
you hang on to the back of the blade in the truck or the bus or something. It's called scutting.
Yeah. I
So,
didn't really rob it, somewhere on a BMX.
Oh, you didn't? You wanker, yeah. I'm at the man, the Lord of that little story.
right, so this week, is it called a backer or a jant?
Yeah.
Or a scut and a jant? But God, there's going to be a load of people texting me, what the fuck is a scut? I do see people scutting on the back of the Lewis and all.
Yeah.
You ever see that?
Yeah, we used to do in Cabarrus
Not in
the
a
dart.
Hanging onto the back of the dart.
Yeah.
Fuck
Onto
off.
the back of a
Yeah,
dart.
I don't believe
Back-
him now. I'm not going
swear
to
to
believe
God,
you
we
saying
used to
now.
do in the Cabarrus in the back of the dart or in between.
Would you not just jump onto the dart instead of hanging onto the back of it?
What's the fun in that when you're a kid?
Well, you can be bunking onto the dart. That's
I'm
the
not
fun.
advocating that kids go out and jump in the back of the dart. you know,
Yeah, I was
and
going to
start
say,
hanging on,
don't
you know
try
what I mean?
that. Do you know
Don't
what I
try
mean?
this at home. With
But zingers boxed off. Zingers out for next week. Calvin.
I want to talk about something, yeah. Fuck Mayo. Yeah.
I'm wearing on that, yeah.
Fuck Mayo. That's all I
Fuck
have
Mayo.
to say. We got a load of stick off people. Text was giving us grief and all. The whole lot of Ireland was fucking delighted when Dublin got bet by Mayo there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now look what's after happening. The usual scenario. Mayo lost in the final. You know what I mean?
Talk about the course. What's
It's a
this course?
guarantee in life Mayo losing all Ireland final.
100%.
So you know the course,
I
Wayne.
think Mayo just got spread too thin.
Yeah, oh, Jesus Christ. Wrap this podcast up. No, but you know the course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's aware of the course. So it was 70 years ago. It was in 1951, the last time they won their All Ireland. Supposedly they were celebrating on the way home. They overtook a funeral procession, didn't show any respect, and the priest cursed them all that they won't win another All Ireland till every member of that team dies. So there's only 2 of them left. And how many finals they had to losing in the last, say, 10 years?
Having a clue.
4 or 5.
A load, yeah.
Fucking Culty's texting me and all, like, oh, go back to Castle Bar, will you get over it? Like, what were you all like? We were out Saturday night and we walked outside and some board walked towards me in a Mayo jersey and I goes, sorry love, what score was that match? And my God,
Oh my, she was
she nearly took the
fuming.
head off my shoulders. I was like, alright look, calm down there, you know what I mean?
Relax there, big fella.
But that's what I'm saying, so fuck Mayo. I'm going to move on
I'm
from
with
that.
you on that. Yeah, fuck Mayo. Go on.
Yeah, another suggestion we had was You watch that new
Tapping the table, will you?
Sorry. We actually have to say to every guest every week to not tap the table, and I had to say it to Wayne there before we start recording, and there's me tapping the fucking table. But that new program started last night. Ken, you didn't watch it, Terence? No,
not into any of that shit. Love Hate was little.
Love Hate was great.
But it was still a bit much, like, you know what I mean? And then all this new shit, it's just another age of it, you know what I mean? So I'm just not really into it. I think
What do
it's
you think
all
about
the
it?
bollocks.
Only started. The only reason why I kind of watched it was because of it's kind of relevant to what's going on in society today. Like, you know, as we all know, it's just basically the bleeding Sunday world and the two families that are feuding at the moment. That's what's based
But that's
on, isn't it?
that's the premise
You
on
know
it.
what
But I watched it. Don't think it's very accurate to the times.
No.
These people are supposed to be drug dealers in Dublin. There's not a blade of a skin fade or kind of the goose jacket in it. You know what I mean? The fella has a man bun and a beard. You're supposed to be telling me he's selling Hoover.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
He'd
the
be
accents
ripped
and
in a
all.
heartbeat,
And
that's
the
a fact.
accents and the way they want to go down and food the snakes. All right, what? What's all that about? Like,
Yeah.
why do they all talk like that's not a Dublin accent?
Yeah, I hate all that shit. I do. I
It's
hate
not very
all them
authentic,
programs.
yeah.
I know what I hate as well. Inside, what's it called?
Inside the K.
Is that what it's called?
Inside the
And
K, yeah.
See, that's the biggest load of bollocks I ever seen in my life. How are they getting away with doing that? Like, where's the entertainment value in what they're doing there? There's a difference between entertainment value because people do enjoy it.
I think
but
there's
a
more to
difference.
it as well, that it's highlighting and castigating certain areas.
Yeah.
That's
And
exactly what it's doing.
It's putting a perspective out there that all those districts, so it's Ballymun, Finglas, Cool, or
Cabra.
Blanche, Cabra,
Yeah.
that these areas are a set way.
Yeah.
Where we all know, like, I lived in Finglas, and the road I lived on, they used to call it Balaclava Drive. Right? So one end of it was very criminal, the other end was very quiet. So you've pockets in these areas, you know, you can go around the corner and you know, go 4 roads and there'll be no hassle, no trouble, no gangs out.
Yeah.
And then you come into a field a bit further down and there's loads there. So you have pockets in these areas, but I think the K puts the suggestion and the perspective out there that all these areas, there's bad people in all these
100%.
areas. It's like what I say about, if you look at Tallaght, there's 100,000 people in Tallaght, the population in Limerick, you know, and it always gets a bad rap. If you look at the prison system, the criminal justice system, there's probably 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 involved from Tallaght over the years. Like, so that means there's 90,000 people in Tallaght that aren't in trouble or on drugs, living,
Yeah.
you know, pro-social lives.
But there's this perception that's drawn in the media and then in these things that are done for entertainment value. That's not entertainment value.
It's like fucking gangland. I'd love to go into a taxi and say, bring me to gangland, because you'd be fucking driving around all day. Where's gangland?
Yeah.
So that was my problem, because I went onto Twitter then. I had great crack last night looking at the tweets about that Ken, and people are like, oh, it's dramatising what's actually going on. And I was thinking, if someone, say, from outside of Dublin or even from outside of Ireland was watching that and thinking, like, that's what's going on in Dublin, like, do you know what I mean? No one's going to come near this
Well,
place.
if you look at who's produced it, it's an American company.
Yeah, AMC.
Is it, yeah?
AMC produce it, yeah. The same people that produced The Walking Dead, and people are like, if this was based in America, you'd be calling out for it to win awards. With that kind of acting, and look, it's not true to what's happening, and I just don't agree with it. And I agree what you're saying, where I watched that Inside the K, and I remember one of the guards was on it, and she was like, you never know who you're going to meet, and my favourite type of people to deal with are head cases and all. So what you're saying, that everyone you deal with is going to be a head case?
I'd love to say something bad there. I swear to God, shut your bleeding mouth. See all that bollocks, like, because there's actually coppers out there that are like that. Not all coppers are bad, we say this all the time, but there is idiots like that. Shut up, you dope, you. Do you know what I mean?
Well, tell me where there isn't. Do you know what I mean? You're going to get, when you're walking, you're going to... Well, I've come across guards that should have been, say, youth workers or social workers. I've come across social workers that should have been fucking prison officers. Do you know what I mean? So not everyone is suited to the job they actually do.
Yeah, definitely,
You know? And it's like going down the road. You have 10 houses on the road. Could be 4 pricks living in 4 houses and the other 6 are all right. So it's a society. If you went around the bus in the mornings, you know, with the pick out people, you probably get 10 that are fucking cranky, 2 that are happy-go-lucky, and you know, someone depressed. So it's across the board. Like.
That's what I'm saying. I just don't believe in the entertainment value part when you're messing with someone's real life. When it's actual real life, just go out and do your job. Fuck the cameras. Fuck all this shit. This is someone's real life that you're bleeding going out and recording.
They went and picked all the good-looking guards as well, didn't they?
Is that what you call them?
I haven't watched it now, but that's you'd see it on social media. You know what I mean? They were all good-looking guards and all. You know, so just trying to fucking replicate Miami voice or something.
I don't know. I think the standard for good looking must have dropped a bit there, did it? And then we had another message as well. So someone says, "What is that to do in Ireland if you're trying to stay off the drink?" So I actually thought about this, and I was like, "Do you know what? I don't really go about my life and think, do you know what, I can do this because I don't drink, and I can't do that because I don't drink." But I think if you're trying to stay off the drink, the best thing for you is get involved in fitness. Because I actually had a good think about this. I said get involved in fitness because I don't think you can be on the drink all the time and involved in fitness and committed to a goal. So like if you are involved in running or you were on like a program for like in the gym, you know, people do 6-week programs. I don't think if you're drinking.
I had this conversation yesterday when the boys were Kyle King. I only had this exact conversation yesterday where that was one of the main things that kept me off the drink. But subconsciously, I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't go, I'm going to start training hard to stay off the drink. But I realised when I was off the drink, I was training harder.
But I
and
think
I was
you can't do both together. They don't go hand in hand.
Yeah. Well, you can't train hard. You can go out and do a little bit and then bleed whatever. But I mean, like, train and things like that. And then, like we said in the Brian Penny episode, like, gratitude. Like, it just being... Like on the weekends, going out for a swim with the boys, having a coffee and just realising, look, I'm usually out in a gaff at this time, I'm usually in bits at this time and then whatever, you know what I mean? All that type of thing will keep you off.
But another thing I thought about as well is put yourself in the situation where you would drink and get comfortable with that.
Well, that's what
if the boys are going out to watch a match in the pub, go and watch a match in the pub and don't drink. Because if you can't get comfortable with that, you'll never be comfortable not drinking.
Yeah.
It also depends on the level of drinking you're talking about and why you're giving up drinking. Are you giving up drinking for the sake of giving up drinking and having a healthy life?
No, because you have a problem with it.
Well, then I wouldn't be telling people to go sit in the bleeding pub.
No, I would. I think to an extent.
Like, if, for example, we were at a christening the weekend, and if you're trying to stay off the drink, then you missed that christening. You know what I mean?
So
if that's the case,
you can never go to a party again. Yeah,
it's a choice, isn't it?
But I think by doing
put
that,
myself in a position like if I can't swim, I'm not going to stand on the edge of a fucking cliff.
But you're in the shallow end.
Yeah, and
you're still not going to stand on a cliff. But fucking down in Galway on a windy day, like, you know what I mean? So
would your advice be to stay away from every party?
Until you're writing yourself or you've looked at why.
Yeah. I agree with you there.
What's your triggers?
Yeah,
so what's your trigger? I'm not going to the pub. If a party is my trigger, I'm not going to go to the party.
But I think after a period of time you will get.
Depends. Not everyone's the same, like, you know what I mean?
But I think by changing your life that much and going, I can never go near a pub again, or I can never go to another party again, that'll all play in them. You end up just going back to the drink.
If you sit in a bus at a terminus, what eventually is going to happen?
What do you mean?
What's going to happen if you're sitting on a bus at a terminus? The bus going to fucking pull off with you on it, isn't it? Sitting in a hairdresser's long enough, you're going to get a haircut.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you sit in the pub long enough, you'll have a drink? I disagree.
Yeah. If you're dealing with an addiction issue,
if
you're dealing with an addiction and your addiction is alcohol, why would you be sitting in a pub?
Because I think you need to become familiar and
get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Because you that's always going to be on your mind that if I go in there, I'm going to drink. And then there's going to be a time in your life where you're going to
safety mechanism.
You're going to have to face that. You're going to have to face the music, or you're going to fall off the bandwagon. I think
now,
you're
look,
going to keep running from the
there's different ways, of course. Look, that way wouldn't work for some people. It would work for some people. I'm comfortable now where when I got sober, I couldn't get near a pub or anything like that for about 3 months. Or there was gaff parties everywhere when I was sober, and I was always in gaff parties, and they were all over the place. And then I was like, I'm staying away. Now I stayed away for months. And then I just got comfortable with it, and then I was sitting around the boys all drinking, doing whatever they wanted to do, and I still have the buzz, no problem, you know what I mean? But took a period of time away, got comfortable, and now I'm comfortable with the uncomfortable. I'll sit around drink all the time, no problem.
Another thing I want to call out as well is, if you're out with your mates and you're watching the match and one of them says they're not drinking, don't fucking question it. If someone says they don't want to have a drink, right, leave it and we move on.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be this pressure, why you're not drinking, you're a pussy, you're this, you're that. If they don't want to drink, don't be pressuring them into it.
Because it's normal in Irish society. I've had it with family members for years, for the first few years. You'll have one, won't you?
Yeah.
She says, yeah, I'll have one. I'll be up down bleeding coyote ugly on the fucking bar in 10 minutes time. I'll be running down the road with me nip.
Yeah.
I know I can't one. One is too many, 1,000 is never enough.
Yeah.
I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
I know I'm an addict. I know I suffer with the disease of addiction. I haven't used drugs in a long time. But I don't put myself in positions where I'm open to it. You know, I'm not going to walk across a firing range, hope that everyone that's shooting at the targets has a good shot and will only hit the targets.
So
there's a chance I could get fucking hit.
So you're talking about your personal experience here when you're saying about, so would you never go to a party again?
No, I do go to parties now.
So you got comfortable with it eventually, yeah. So take your period of time away. That's what I'd be saying. I don't
But
think...
I'm double digits in recovery.
What? So...
Over 10 years in recovery.
Oh, right, yeah.
And-
And how long did it take you?
I've looked at my underlying issues. I've had the outside help. I go to a 12-step fellowship.
Yeah.
I've looked at myself. I know my triggers. I know my defects of character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I know and dealt with all the guilt and the shame. I've taken ownership of what's mine. But I've also let go of the stuff from my youth that wasn't mine, that I used off. So until I got to that place, and my experience is with people I sponsor and people come through the door behind me and that have gone before me, that's the process. You know what I mean? There's a lot more to just staying off drink and staying off a party. Do you know what I mean? How do you deal with the mental aspect of it, the guilt, the shame, the baggage you've left behind, the carnage you've fucking caused?
Yeah.
You know, if you don't deal with that stuff, I didn't get closure till 2012 with something that went on in my young life, like, you know what I mean? I used off that stuff for years. Give me the the right to use, because I thought there was no other solution, and that was the insanity.
All that, Wayne. Yeah, we're gonna get into your story now and fill people in.
Yeah.
Look, that's all the suggestions boxed off.
I just think, touching back on that before we go, is look at what Wayne is saying is right. Look into why you're knocking the drink on the head. Is it a lifestyle change? You just want to be healthier, you're not enjoying it? Look into that. If it's something as small as that, grand. Yeah, and for people out there listening as well, if your mates are looking into knocking the drink on the head, don't be pressuring them into it. You know what I mean? Some people are not comfortable being sober around drunk people. Some people are not comfortable being drunk around sober people.
Yeah.
We'll get there. You know, I always say, if you ask me to go to the pub on a Monday, I don't ask you, why are we going on a Monday? But if I say I'm not going to the pub on a Friday, you always ask me, why am I not going to the pub on a Friday? And that's a problem we have in Ireland that I think we're slowly getting around to. A lot more people are becoming comfortable being sober in social settings.
Definitely.
And it's only when you go across, look at the bleeding European countries, they look at Ireland and say, what's the story with them? Constantly fucking drinking. And another thing I wanted to address,
Nation of drinkers.
I heard this on the radio the other day and I was shocked. In Ireland, we have the second highest obesity rate in the EU. So if somebody wants to make a lifestyle change and they're looking to get into fitness and you can do something to encourage them, because that is an alarming statistic to have.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Even with drinking, I think for females, I think we're second or third highest in the world as well.
In the world, like,
Female
fuck.
drinkers, like.
Fucking hell, that's some stuff.
So we need to start kind of turning this dial, and little things can help. Encouragement. You know, you see people saying I'm X amount of days sober. Encourage it. You know, don't be saying, why are you counting days? Let them count days, because that's a milestone. That's a milestone. That's a goal for people. You know, people have to start small and then you build on it. And before you know, that 7 days turns into 30, turns into 365.
Love that. The Calvin fella, they're hitting the nail on the head.
Well, look at me. Look, I'm sick of getting questioned about it. You know, I get questioned about it all the time, and I don't get why people question it as well.
I think that's because you never drank. So
Well,
people are, like, trying to
I've
look-
dabbled in it.
Yeah,
I've dabbled in it,
yeah.
but I learned long ago this is not for me.
Yeah.
And that's a past life to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's only a handful of people have seen me drunk in my life.
Yeah.
And I know more people now that haven't, and I just want to keep it that way.
You need good friends as well, and my friends are so supportive. Do you know what I mean? Like all my friends, like if I said to one of the boys, and if they're all out drinking, sniffing and whatever, and I said, give us one of them there, they give me a dig in the head. Do you know what I mean? You're for really stupid country or off and whatever, and you need that good company in your life. You know what I mean? You'll realise who's there for you when you do get sober and things like that. You're not just sitting around the same people who'll sit with you and sniff all night and pour your heart out, but won't talk to you from Monday to Friday, but they'll talk to you all weekend. Do you know what I mean? So you'll realise who's there for you. and
Look, we
stuff
had a
like
great time the weekend.
Great time at late night, running amok down a floorboard, left them Foley's. Tore the place asunder. Brilliant night.
I actually have to
was.
drop back up there and get my voice off.
But yeah, no, it was a great night. Right, that's that.
Yeah.
Wayne, into the big fella now.
Into the hot seat now, Wayne. So,
what's your name? Where'd you come from? Fill us in, tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name is Wayne Hart. I was born in the northeast inner city. Family were all from Summerhill, Ballybock. Lived there till I was about 4 years of age. And then we moved out to the Coolock Bardic area. But I went to school in town. I went to the North Strand Tech and all, you know. I played for O'Toole's, playing for them on and off in between prison sentences and all, right up till I was 40. And I was managing there with O'Toole's there a couple of years ago. And it just happened that they moved out to where we moved out to years later. So, but it's that old. You can take the boy out of town, but you can't take town out of the boy. And then, you know, I was 18, I moved back into town myself. So some people will tell you I'm from town, others will tell you I'm from Coolock, others will say I'm from Carbarrick. Because I live in the border of Coolock and Carbarrick where I grew up, you know. So probably 20 odd years in town and 20 odd years.
You're a townie, we can
out
hear
that
it in
way.
your
Yeah,
fucking
everyone
voice.
says that to me. Everyone says that
What
to
was
me.
life like growing up then?
It was all right till I hit the age of probably 6 or 7, you know. I went through a couple of years of systematic abuse, you know, sexual abuse. So that didn't help, you know what I mean? So, you know, when you're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, you can't fucking regulate your emotions. You don't know what's bleeding going on with you, like, you know. Not to get too descriptive, but when something's happening to you at that age, like, and what was going on, you're not understanding it and all, and then, you know, for years you're confused with your sexuality. You're trying to find yourself, you know what I mean? You haven't even hit puberty at this stage, you know. Got very angry and aggressive, you know. Would have been threats made that if I didn't retract what I was saying, you know, because I got in touch with we got in touch with the police, and I made a statement. I think it was 9 or 10 years of age at that stage. 10, I think it was, 1980, and it's kind of just swept under the carpet. You
Did
know.
you come out to a family member that this was happening?
What happened was, a few of us were talking, and it came out, and I don't know whether someone heard us or what the story was, or one of the kids went back and told their mothers, and then a guard arrived at the house one day, a detective, you know what I mean, to question me, and that's when it all kind of came out. So there was 6 was in the area that kind of came out about it. 3 took their own life, suicide, because of it. I don't know, the other 2 lads, they moved out of the area as well. I don't know where they're at in life, if they're even alive, and I ended up very angry, aggressive, criminal tendencies, wanting to lash out at society and institutions, and ended up then years of addiction, you know. I get emotional when I think about it, because sometimes I think I grew up lightly, you know. 3 of my friends are dead, took their lives, you know. That's the reality of it, of what went on. And then I couldn't walk down certain roads in my area. Even coming from school, it was a kind of straight run. I couldn't go down because there was lay people at the church, you know, the people that collected money for the church and done stuff for the church, you know. They used to run me off the road, and it's the Catholic Church had so much power back then, you know. And people didn't believe you and all this kind of stuff.
People didn't want to believe you.
Everyone knew what was kind of going on. There was people there that knew what was going on, but were afraid to speak up, like, you know what I mean?
When you said the sexual abuse, Wayne, was it numerous occasions?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, over a period of time, over a period of years. But one of the abusers, like, was heavily involved in the school. So we'd go on school trips with us. He was involved in the youth club. So when we went on youth club trips, he was there. They used to run swimming classes, 6-week swimming classes in the school, and he was on all those swimming classes with us and all. The same person had been moved from 2 other areas previous, so they knew what was going on. Yeah. Now, that was brought to light. So then you have the biggest, I mean, the family institution, the biggest institutions outside the family, the education system, the criminal justice system, and the Catholic Church, and the 3 of them are hiding it, sweeping it under the carpet, allowing it go on. You're 10 years of age. How do you deal with that? I didn't know how to deal with it, you know. So I started getting into kind of deviant behaviours. I used to go up and I'd burn the priest's shed. I'd smash his windows. I'd go up and I'd smash the windows in the school. I seen the guards going down the road, I'd throw stuff at them or I'd slag them. Do you know what I mean? So it brought a lot of adverse attention on myself as well, you know. But I didn't understand that at the time. So I remember, like, you spoke about the TED Talk. I remember standing down off the train, 15 years of age, in London, and making a conscious decision. No one's ever going to fucking hurt me again. Mentally, physically, spiritually. It just wasn't happening. Man, woman, or child. And I just ingrained that into me. And it led me down a path that I'm not, you know, I'm not...
Take your time.
the stuff I done was bad, was wrong. you know, and I'm not here to justify it. I'm just giving the context of what was behind it, how I went that path. I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be a fucking monster. I want to be an armed robber. I want to be a drug dealer. I want to be a heroin addict. I want to be a survivor of sexual abuse. Sexual abuse came first. The other stuff came next. So there was no services in place. People didn't believe me. Now, we didn't get closure on that until 2012. I finally got believed. So you're going from 1980 to 2012. So over 32 years, I had this in my head, and I was fighting the state, the education system, the Catholic Church, and the criminal justice system. You know, but I got closure. But so many people, and then he died in prison. So there's so many people that didn't get closure. And I always maintained it was about 17 or 18 was in the area this had happened to. Transpired when it all came out it was up in the 40s.
Fucking hell.
You know, savage stuff like, you know what I mean, that was lekker one. You know, thank God society today is a bit different, you know what I mean? There's more supports and services out there, and I mean, you have tools and you have people, you know, slating tools and all, but at least if you come to me and tell me you're after being abused, that there's an agency or somewhere I can go, I can send you to, I can put a report into, you know what I mean? And that's important, do you know what I mean, today, because I hadn't got them services, the training wasn't there. Turned out then when I was in college, I'm highly dyslexic, so getting thrown out of class now because you weren't understanding stuff and all. I left school with the reading and writing ability of 12, 13-year-old, you know, so with no education attainment, you know, I had no healthy relationship with sex, so I used and abused women for years, thought that this was the way it happened because of the experience I'd had. Then I struggled with my sexuality, and then it was like, I should go out and I'll be with every girl I can possibly be with because I'm not gay or this, that and the other. And that's not, you know, a castigation of people that are gay. It was just, I was struggling with what had gone on, do you know what I mean? It was nothing to do with gay. He was a paedophile. Or paedophiles, you know what I mean? And to make that distinction that because people are gay, you know, I mean that paedophiles, like, you know what I mean? Paedophiles are sick people, you know. So, you know, struggling with all that growing up, and then you're on the streets of London, 15 years of age, and the IRA, you're talking about IRA baitings, the IRA are bombing the place left, right and centre. I'm 4'11", 15 years of age. A scouser on the train hands me a scalpel. I remember going into the toilet and saying, holy fuck, what am I have to let myself in for? He's like, you really, you're Irish, 4'11", you're going to live in the streets of London. He said, give me a scalpel. That fear kicked in. Nothing I done was nothing to do with that. I was a hard man. It was fear. I was terrified. I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. Because I realised that violence became a statement of intent. And when I had a weapon, it was an extension of me. You know, and I utilised it. It was a survival mechanism, you know. But as I said, like in the TED Talk, at what point did I cross over from being a victim to a monster? You know, and it was that moment, stepping down off that train, where that fear gripped me. I was like, oh, no one's ever going to hurt me again, you know.
So what happened when you left school at 13 and you moved to London?
15.
And you moved to London then?
Yeah, done a runner to London. Off the BMX. Yeah, so I done a runner to London.
Well, you actually running from something?
Yeah, something over a credit union in the local area. So I went on my toes, and it was the 15th of October, the night of my sister's birthday. And so I legged it to London. So I was over there for a few weeks.
Just all right. And so you come back to Dublin then?
Yeah, police and people were looking for me, and someone had made contact with one of the homeless hostels and that over there. Obviously, they were a bit more advanced than we were at the time, like, and someone said, yeah, well, he's staying in such and such, and someone got in touch with me and said, your dad and your uncles had been on looking for you and all. So I had to end up going up to, where was it? An Irish centre anyway, I can't remember where it was, and I went up there and they had to get my uncle to pay the money on this side for me in the Garda station to get me home. Do you know what I mean? It was just crazy stuff, like, you know what I mean? Imagine like a 15-year-old ending up in the streets of London today. You know,
crazy.
Yeah.
It's a mad old thought, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what's happening after all that then?
So I came back and I had that whole like not feeling comfortable in school, being terrified in school, right? So having all them aces, all that, you know, adverse childhood experiences, and not feeling safe. So I'm not feeling safe around, you know, the Catholic Church. Everyone in the area, you know, they're all Catholics. We're in a Catholic area. We're in a Catholic society. You know, it's Ireland. You know, they're all Catholics. Half of them are working for the church, or, you know, doing stuff for the church. The church is involved in the youth centres, it's involved in the school, right? Didn't feel safe in any of them places. And then the guards stood over and hid it and brushed under the carpet, like, you know what I mean? So I didn't feel safe for any of them. So I needed to find safety. So I started hanging around with the older lads, the bigger lads, you know what I mean, that were a few years older than me and all. So it's that whole thing of connection, you know, being part of finding me family type of thing, you know, safety, you know. So I ended up in a Republican movement as well, you know. Then kind of formed my own kind of crew as I got a bit older, you know. When I hit 17, 18 years of age, I started doing other things, and like that, because of the fear and not wanting anyone above me, I had to run it, I had to lead it, you know what I mean? And I was safe in that knowledge, and it was like they were working for me, you know, they were my crew, like, you know, but all bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, just looking for identity and safety.
You had a problem with authority, so you had to become the authority. Big
time. The Catholic Church, school.
Yeah.
What are children's first, you know, experiences of authority apart from their parents?
Yeah.
Your teacher.
Teachers and coppers.
Coppers. Priests, you know, especially back then, you know what I mean? And you probably would have put the priest first back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and look, this is not a slating session of the Catholic Church. They've done good stuff over the years, and there's good priests out there. It's like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Just because you live in a road where 10 people are doing whatever, there's 30 other people on that road.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You can't paint them all with the same brush,
No.
It's obvious what you're getting at there when you're saying that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, right, so you're 17, 18, you have your own little gang and all this going on. Fill us in then, what's going on then?
So, just, as I said, I had no education attainment. I couldn't really read or write, like, you know what I mean? So it was like I had to form my own economy, you know. So I looked around, and I was fairly clever. Everyone always said that if I went through college or done this, that I, you know, could have been into import and export. I kind of did get into the import and export, but not legal stuff, like, you know what I mean. So I kind of seen a niche. So if you put it in context, it's 1980. People talk about the last recession. I'd be laughing at just, what fucking recession? That wasn't a recession. In 1980s, you needed the leaving cert to pack shelves and duns. My father had 3 jobs just to put food on the table and get us through the week. That was a recession, you know. Even collecting, he was doing stuff that people wouldn't do. There used to be movies, television rentals, right? And you used to rent your
telly.
No, the bleeding, the tellies, but the camera action fucking DVDs, what do they call them back then? Not a DVD player, what were they?
VCR.
Yeah, right, video recorder,
Yeah.
right, so one of them, right, and like the bleeding that size and all, and bleeding hammer to push the buttons down them. My dad used to collect them in Ballymun and Fingers where no one had collected the rent for movies, like, you know what I mean. So even the jobs that they done, it was like £2 fucking pound a telly or something, you know, but people wouldn't do them, so you needed a certain character of person to do that type of work and all, you know. So there was no real money, so people made ends meet. So I was like, right, so that means people want to get stuff cheap, don't they? So I'd go down that route of breaking into factories and stuff. Wasn't into like houses or anything, because I didn't want to rob from people that hadn't got. Do you know what I mean? So I was never into anything like that, you know what I mean? I kind of started high end with me criminality, like, you know. So the first sentence I got was for robbing a place in Cherry Street. All its radios and, you know, for the cars, and baby seats and windows, mirrors and all sorts. That was the first sentence I got. But
how long did you get for that?
6 months.
All the way.
17.
It's kind of old enough to get your first conviction, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Considering, like, I don't want to jump ahead, considering how many you ended up with. 17 is late enough to get your first one.
Yeah.
Usually you hear people that will have a bleeding
Well, it
Patience,
might
length
it
of arm,
wouldn't have
they
been my
start early.
first one, but it was my first sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It was my first sentence. No, actually, I was 18. I was 18 to get my first sentence. 6 months. I was 18 to get my first sentence. I went to Pats. But like that, so I kind of, it's that whole thing, you know, shoot for the moon, at least you miss, you'll hit the stars, like, you know what I mean? So I didn't get into the petty stuff, you know what I mean? So I kind of started with factories and stuff like that, and then got involved with other people that were doing factories and stuff, and I don't want to name people, but
Yeah,
you
make
probably,
sure
you
you
probably, you
don't
probably,
like that,
you probably, you probably know, you know what I mean? But people that were doing factories and high-end stuff and cigarettes and all that kind of stuff, and kind of started that kind of way. And then, you know, I got into, so there was a ready-made profile of people to buy the stuff. Do you know what I mean? And especially food as well. I used to have this thing around going in and filling trolleys full of steaks and all. And you go up the road and there was families in the areas that would have from 6 kids to 12. And they take her all off you.
Man, that's still going.
I know
Just
that.
sitting in the pub to
Yeah,
start the last
yeah,
year, and people will be
yeah.
coming in selling steaks. All the old ones are all over.
Yeah, so we had people that were unemployed, you know what I mean? No education, time, coming from broken homes. You had a ready-made workforce, right? And then you had people that were struggling, so you had ready-made clientele, you know what I mean? And we got to a point where we were working to order.
Yeah.
People would actually come to you and ask you for stuff, like, you know what I mean? It's mad. It was a bit more organised then than it is now, where the people are just going out and like that, they go into pubs and clubs
Yeah,
and
trying to
want to
get rid of
pay
it,
or
yeah,
knock
yeah.
at the flats or
Like you
stuff
said,
like that.
shoot and move, you miss, you'll hit the stars. You don't
Yeah.
understand people that go in and rob a £5 bottle of bleeding vodka, a £5 nagging, £5.50. Go in and if you're gonna
Take the grey goose off the shelf.
Take the goose.
I don't bleed and grin at all.
Well, we did
We're knocking down on it.
We're knocking
Yeah,
down and
yeah,
theft.
yeah.
But if you're going to do it, go for the goose. We just robbing the Nikita vodka and all
Yeah.
that off me.
So with all that kind of stuff going on, so society is very fluid. So next of all, the whole thing was drink, and we used to jump on the dart, right, and we go all the way to Bray. Now in Bray back then, the shop used to sell flagons of cider. The counters over here and the flagons of cider over here in the out, and you have a bunch of head cases coming out in town and Coolock and Cabarrick, and you're coming out, and it's just, we get the biggest fella we had. He'd stand at the thing, look at this, and he's blocking us, and they're getting wiped. We're all out there with backpacks and all, and instead of getting wiped, we're drinking on the dark, going home, and we're selling it and all that kind of stuff. So then hash kind of starts to come into the equation, and people are buying it, you know what I mean? And they used to go into town. The fuckers in town used to rip us off with the deals they gave us, right? But you could only buy a deal in town. Deal in town back then was a tenner. You went in with a deal. That's it, getting a deal. There was no longer getting a 10 spot. A deal was €10. So I was like looking at people, and I was a bit of an entrepreneur, you know. And I was
seen
looking
the
at people,
opportunity.
yeah, and I was like, it's easier for a few of us to get a £5. Because that was our experience. You'd pick up a £5, even your ma back then or something, you know, you get a bit of change here, a bit of change there, you'd run to the shop for something or something, and all of a sudden 2 or 3 get together, they had a £5. It's hard to get the tenner. So we decided to start buying a few ounces of hash and start doing 5 spots. You know what I mean? £5 deals, and it just kind of took off from that then. Do you know what I mean? I just would pump money back in. Do you know what I mean? To what I was doing, and then eventually, you know, a lot of the hash in Coolock, Cabarrick, Darndale was all mine, and it started going into town. The family members started selling for me in town and all, and just kind of went up the scale then, you know. But I'd made connections in London when I was 15 that helped but didn't help. Do you know what I mean? So I had connections there, and I was able to get what I needed to get at a high level of, you know, a good quantity, you know, and high standard of stuff, and a lot cheaper than what people were getting it, you know, in Ireland at the time. So like there was the opportunities for that, you know, and then it expanded out to different counties and stuff like that, you know.
So it just shows like you climbing the ladder. All that has to come to an end at some stage. That's why I try and
Very
talk
much
to
so.
me family about, like me younger cousins and things like that. I try and explain that to them, that there's no end goal with that. Like it only goes one way or the other. Like there's just a 0.01% of people that make it out of that game and
Very
are
few.
wealthy and they can laugh to the bank. But there's nobody ever makes around, no matter how big you get, you think you're the dog's bollocks, you think you have this and that, you're gonna get locked up, you're gonna get killed, something's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Nobody gets out of that game.
No, people want around thinking they're bleeding Pablo Escobar, you know what I mean? More like Pablo Crossbar.
Yeah.
It's just not fucking happening. Like, I mean, a lot of my mates are either dead, on the run, can't come home, or doing big sentences or life sentences. You know
I
what
only
mean?
talked to you on the way over, and we were talking about people who are in that game and how it's a bit similar to what you were saying, that entrepreneurial mindset of you're seeing a niche, you're getting the import, the export, the price, you're seeing the opportunity in the market. And I was literally only had this conversation on the way over. Many people we know that are involved in stuff they shouldn't be involved in, but with a business mindset.
Yeah.
That if they applied it to a business, they'd be fucking booming.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And all you need is a bit. I don't know. Actually, I don't really know what you need. Do you know that? I don't know what you need.
Well, I tell you, if you did the likes of the IDA and stuff like that years ago, when I was going around, like some of the ideas I had were great. Like, I remember I used to go around, I was walking in a place, right, and they used to sell bags of rags, right, and where my father worked, they used to buy off them as well, and Cadbury's and loads of different places, and loads of printers would buy them, and garages for spillages and stuff. So they were just basic bags and they were just rags. So I went down the market one day with my uncle, and I got a load of bags, bought a load of bags, and I done up a little flyer in the job, and I printed it off in the job, and I printed hundreds of them, and I got myself and my mate, and we went around the van delivering it, we'll take all your rags, right? So we used to go down, we get the rags. Now they were getting something like, I think it was £12, like punt for a bag of rags at the time. So I went in then and I was doing it for £8. You know what I mean? But you had to go to this place to get them, and all, but we were delivering them out. We started robbing a few of the companies. Punters, like, you know what I mean? So we always had that skill set, but it was never nurtured. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is, I'm not saying people shouldn't go through school. I'm an advocate that people do finish school and get out, because, as I said, you needed a leaving cert to pack shelves and duns. We don't know if that's ever going to happen again. But I hadn't even got a group cert or a junior cert, so I couldn't even pack shelves. I couldn't even carry the boxes for the van, the fucking duns. You know what I mean? Because I hadn't got that education attainment. But also, we need to acknowledge as a society that education is not the end all and be all.
No.
That's what I was just going to say to you there.
Because people have skill sets.
Definitely,
And
yeah.
that's what, I can't believe the move away from technical skills. And they used to say, if you went to a technical skill, you were tick, right? But a lot of people I know that went to technical skills, a lot of them have their own businesses now. You know, whether it's in, you know, steel or metal fabricating, or, you know, running their own
Even
companies with
carpentry.
woodwork.
Yeah.
Mate of mine, brother-in-law, does his own gig and on serious money, and has a crew of people under him. But they went to technical skills. They got you know, apprenticeships. You know, so I'd love to see that coming back, because not everyone is academic.
But
Yeah,
like
I would agree,
you do hear these people who come up with ideas overnight and they wouldn't be educated, and next of all they're running a very successful company.
Look at Dyson sitting at home, paying his face hoovering the floor. Comes up with a bleeding a hoover that'll suck the dirt up. You're a bleeding billionaire.
Yeah.
Same with your man who the fellow who founded IKEA.
Yeah.
He was loading his table into his car one night and he couldn't get it in because of the shape of it, so we cut the legs off and screwed them back on then later that night. And he's like, you know what, that's a good idea. But you know, even simple things, like I know people out there, if they just opened up a coffee van, but the mindset that they have, they'd have the best coffee van in Dublin.
I've done it all. I had a hot dog stand. I used to, you probably heard about or read about the hot dog wars, you know, up in Leeson Street. One of my vans was there, and I used to have it down at festivals and everything. But I also had family that were into T-shirts, flags, scarves, do all that kind of thing, and programs and all. So we'd buy all that off them, make serious profit on it, even though it's people selling for me. So when we go down to a festival, I'd have hot dogs, I'd have hats, scarves, flags, T-shirts, £5 deals, and that's it. So there was just always that criminal piece that made a bit more money, and that was the problem, like, because if we push forward now to like when I'm 20, 21 years of age, I've 2 kids and a home and a partner, but no education attainment, and I can't get a bleeding job. So it was, like I said, I created my own economy. You know, and you see it with travellers, you know, there's a theory out there of the traveller economy. you know, because people won't give them jobs and all. So, you know, the dad brings the next fella through, gives them a van and all, and puts them all the tools for cobble locking. And I've lived with travellers as well, and I've done all that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not, I was never shy of work or getting stuck in. Just the ways and means were wrong at the time, you know what I mean? And how do you live on, I can't remember what it was, 90-something pound back in the day, and 2 children and a partner, and people didn't sign on together because they wouldn't get their money on, and you're losing it, and you're trying to live, and you know how the government or people expect you to live like that. You know, it's not viable, you know, but because we moved in together, then we had to. So we were down a payment, like, you know what I mean? You had 2 kids in a house.
So you've 2 kids at 21. Your first sentence was at 18, yeah? So was that like a revolving door kind of thing? Were you constantly in and out?
Yeah, you know, 56 convictions, right? That's not actually a lot. I'm 51 years of age, you know what I mean? So I've worked with people in the past that up over 140.
And just hear him out here real quick, because when he says he has 56 convictions and it's not a lot, hear him out here, because it'll make sense in a minute.
Now, one thing I want to touch on as well is because you see these things when they're broadcast in the media, and it'd be like such and such a person done this, and they have 100 and something convictions, and people are always quick to like, what did you expect? Is that many convictions? But something we touched on before is you very rarely would get arrested in Ireland and get charged with one thing. Yeah, it's always like an accumulation of things. So you're drunk and disorderly is also disturbing the peace. It's also criminal damage. It's also resisting arrest. Even though a copper could have come out and just put handcuffs on you, before you know it, you 4 or 5 charges up against you, and then that spirals and snowballs. 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, and next of all you've over 100 charges.
It's like I said around when I got to 6 months, like, but that was like I got done for breaking and entry, you know, I got done for possession of stolen property, done for selling it. Like, there was loads of things. I got done for criminal damage. There was loads of different charges in that one
6
charge.
or 7 charges just
I think on that one I had 5 charges, and then I remember getting done for a car, and it was a rob car. I was out jogging, and mate of mine flew by, a few of them in Fairview in a car. Just go on, get in. So we got in anyway. A bit lazy, didn't want to jog home, I suppose, but we got in anyway, and they all jumped out. And I says, I'm going to drive this back to my house, you know what I mean, with a crack, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, bottles on behind me, picked up a chase. And I'm not into cars, I was never into rob cars. It was the first one I was in, and they knew that. I didn't actually get a sentence for that, because they knew I got a suspended sentence. But guards had seen me out jogging, knew I was out jogging, you know what I mean, because they actually slagging me going down the Malahide Road. And then I ended up in the car on the way back, because the lads were in Fairview in it. But like that, I got done with dangerous driving on certain roads. I think of 3 or 4 roads, not indicating on this road. Criminal damage, even though I didn't rob it, you know what I mean, allowing myself to be carried as a passenger and then being the driver and all, with 11 charges out of that. So those 2 charges alone racked up 16 charges.
So that's explaining what we meant by when he says I have 56 charges and I'm 51 years of age. That's what we mean. It's not 56 or whatever, different times. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He's picking up 11 in one and 5 in the other. So, and then back to what you were saying before we jumped in there and nipped in the bud there. So you were saying you have that amount of charges, fellas in then. You were what you mentioned something after that. What did he mention after that then? The charge before we jumped in and said
you were talking about the revolving door.
Yeah. So look, I was in and out. You know, as I said, there was no real services. Even in prison, right? The probation and welfare service. Now they've taken welfare out of it, and it's just probation service now. But thank God they're moving back to the welfare side of it as well. But in prison, you couldn't put your name down with that. You'd be slaughtered. Do you know what I mean? Or people say, see the Vinnies, or you know, see the welfare. You know what I mean? So there wasn't that capacity, or you know, room or space to go and say, listen, this is what I'm struggling with, and you know, when I get out, I can't read, I can't write, I can't do this, I can't do that. A lot of people find themselves in that position. So when they're coming back out, you know, you've just taken them out of society. It's just like taking the washing out, putting it on the line, taking it back off the line and putting it back in the washing machine. Just same cycle all the time. There was nothing else, you know what I mean? Someone needed to take her out and fucking air it or put her on the rads, you know what I mean, and give her the chance to dry out, you know. So that wasn't there, and them services wasn't there. I suppose because of who I became, and the people I knew and the people that knew me and the stuff that I'd done, I kind of carved out a name myself. So I was all right to go to school in there. It was all right to go and do school and do training and acting and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, because people wouldn't say anything to me. So although I was terrified, me name and reputation kept me safe. So, you know, battling down with, do I hold on to this? You know what I mean? That keeps me safe, because remember, like, when you challenge me, I go back to being that 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old child. You know what I mean? And I'm afraid, you know, it doesn't have that power over me now today, like, you know, but then it did, you know. So you're walking around prison landing, and you know, you hear the officers coming in the morning, you know what I mean, they're doing the roll call, and the first lock comes off, you know what I mean, before the class man comes round, you know, and you're down, the vest top goes on, the woman beater, and you're down, you're on the chair, and you're doing your dips and doing your press-ups, and you're like this walking out, and you have a piss pot in this hand and a bucket in this hand, which you're washing it, and you're walking down the landing like that. You know what I mean? It's all like the big peacock. You know what I mean? It's all a
Hard man persona kind of thing.
yeah. I'm not going to walk out and tell you I need a fucking hug.
Yeah.
That I'm after being thinking to me bleeding. My granddad's at the dying last night, and I was actually crying. Do you know what I mean?
Did you enjoy the reputation?
You see, for me, it was the difference between enjoying it and just it becoming
And needing
you.
it, like, yeah.
Right? Just becoming you for a specific reason. I knew at the age of 25, I wanted to stop. I knew. I went to the school in Mountjoy, and I said, I want to get educated. I want to read and write. I was out in the yard wandering. I was only saying this the other day with someone, and someone started telling me about something they done, right? I'm wandering around the yard, and the war stories are going, you know what I mean? What they told me I done, and they were telling me they done it. They were taking ownership of this thing that was done, right? And I just looked at me mate, and I gave him a don't say anything, you know what I mean? And we went around, and I just went around and I said, what fucking bullshit. And I remember it brought me back then. I was in, a few of the lads were with me, we were down in a place collecting money that I was owed, and went in to get a haircut. The two lads are sitting behind me, and I'm sitting getting my haircut in the mirror. And the man's talking, he's from Dublin, yeah, my hash is down here. Oh, nothing. So the lads say, it's going out. So the lads outside smoking hash. So the man says, oh, the lad's smoking hash now. He says, yeah. He says, I'll get a drag of it. I know the young barbers and all. He says, yeah. And the man goes, jeez, that's good bleeding hash. He says, it's like the hash that's down here. He says, there's a fella from Dublin, he said, selling it. He runs the place down here. So the conversation was going on. I'm just listening to him now. He says, where are you from? And all, it's quite a cool look area up there. Jeez, did you not Wayne Hart? He says. The lads are back in, sitting down at this stage, and we made like this, right? Because this has happened a couple of times, right? I've had people threaten people with me and all. I knew nothing about what was being going on, right? And his head's going down like this, and I sit there, I says, don't know. I said, do you know him? Yeah. He runs the show down here. He says, I get me hash out and all. I says, oh, yeah. I says, is it nice hash? He says, yeah. He said, but you wouldn't fuck with him. And I'm sitting there in the chair. This clown hasn't a clue who I am. Never met him before in my life. Right, first time ever in his hairdressers. This is in County Louth. And then I experienced that in the prison. I was like, what fucking bullshit? What false bullshit am I living in? You know. So I realised. I walked out of the yard that day, and I consciously said, and I always say to people, I made a decision that day. I wasn't going to save time anymore. Time was going to save me. And I got educated in prison. I started to get education in prison. My GAA coaching licence was done in prison. It wasn't done outside a GAA pitch. It was done inside in the tarmac. My FAI coaching cert, the licence I have, was done in prison. My NCFE was done in prison. Aerobics instructor and all. Gym instructor. I done all that in prison. Then I upskilled when I got out of prison. Do you know what I mean? So I knew, like that, I wanted to change. But it was hard. Do you know what I mean? Because you're doing sentences and stuff, and it didn't just stop. Because again, I get
Yeah,
out of
because you
prison.
wanted to get out. You don't to say, oh yeah, go ahead. You still have to do the sentence.
Still to do the sentence, like, you know what I mean? And then it's like very violent. So I done the AVP courses when I was in prison to deal with my anger issues, you know. So that's where my violence comes from. It doesn't come from a place of wanting to be a hard man or being dangerous. It comes from a place of anger of what happened to me. 'Cause,
Trauma.
do you know what I mean? I go back to that trauma, you know what I mean? But that hasn't, you know, surfaced in years, like, you know what I mean? I don't allow it to control me anymore, you know, because it just sent me down an awful route, like, you know. If I'd had the ability back then, or the services, to be able to talk to people and go and say what was going on with me, or just trust one person, I'd have done it. If I'd have known now today what works for me and what's working for other people.
Well, we always say back then it was a huge problem for people like
Yeah.
yourself, and because you weren't too, you weren't to talk around like that. You had to be the man's man.
It's a male
You
macho
weren't to
environment,
talk.
do you know what I mean?
There was egos, and there's still egos today, you know.
Yeah.
But we're working on it and we're getting better. But back then, nobody fucking talked.
I've
like that.
no
You were too
problem today
vulnerable.
telling you that when I'm vulnerable or being vulnerable. I've no problem getting emotional. We ran from all that stuff. 'Cause
Exactly.
big men don't cry, do they? Big men do fucking cry.
Exactly.
The hard men out there was the likes of my father and the other fathers that went out and worked 2 and 3 jobs to put food on the table and get us through school.
Exactly.
They're the hard men. All the hard men, you know, wearing overcoats, wooden overcoats. They're in the ground pushing up daisies. Telling you.
I agree with you there to an extent, yeah, but I do agree with you, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. We are getting better at it in today's age, you know, and that's why we need to talk more and talk about this type of thing and show that people can change and, you know, yourself. So then, talk to us then. Life was going on then. So, how long was that prison sentence you were saying that you were doing?
When you were 25, when you realised.
That was 5, I think.
5-year stretch.
Yeah. So just time went on, and I remember getting out and walking down the North Circular Road. I was heading out the family in somewhere Hill and Ballybuck, and met up with a few of them. And I was walking out. I was going over the canal bridge into Ballybuck, and I just looked up, and the sun was shining on Crow Park. It was coming up and shining. Crow Park was getting redeveloped at the time. That's how long ago it was, and we were only knocking it down at the time. And I just said, fuck this. He said, I'm just becoming a part of the rat race. I just want a job. I just want to live normal. I don't want to be fucking, you know, having weapons all around my house, or having people fucking watching with walkie-talkie streaming, having walkie-talkie in the house, or we're going to get shot, or guards coming in, you know. So you've all that trauma, you're adding to all that trauma, you know what I mean? And then you're bringing it to your loved ones as well, and your
But
family
Wayne, I'm
members
glad
and all.
you're saying that now, because that's the type of thing, right, when you're trying to tell people, especially family and people you care about, why you shouldn't get into that game. We're not telling you not to get into that because, you're selling drugs, you might owe someone money. It goes down so much deeper than that, like the trouble you're putting on your family,
I
the
was
worry
involved
walking
in
down
that
the road.
drugs intimidation, that, you know, thing that was done there a while ago. And I remember giving an interview for it and all, and just even thinking back, me, stuff I done, I was a bit wild, you know, pulling people out of houses in front of their family members and all. That's horrific fucking stuff, like.
Yeah.
I can only imagine if that happened today, one of my kids getting pulled out of the house and I'm there, like, you know. So people need to think about other people. It's not just about you and wearing the fucking Canadian goose. It's the trauma, and it's the shame and the guilt of your ma going to the shops and knowing people are looking at her because of what you're doing, not what your ma's doing, what you're doing. You know, that's hard. And then waiting on that knock on the door and all, you know, like, that's savage stuff. Like, that affects people's mental health.
And we live in small communities as well, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People see, and the way things are done, like, do you know what I mean? People see people coming in and out of the houses. People see the guard hanging around the door. People going through the gaff and
I was
stuff.
living in a place there a while ago, a good few years ago, and I knew what time, what was getting, who was getting it, what it was delivered, where it was going, what was getting done, and then where it was being pushed off to. And that was me just living on the road.
Yeah.
So if I could suss that, people know what's going on.
Fucking right.
Do you know what I mean? People
Yeah.
know what's going on, you know. And your man could have a great relationship with neighbours, and you just fuck all that up.
Yeah. But
you know what I mean?
It's deeper than that. It's not just
a lot
about
deeper.
bleeding, buying drugs and selling drugs. It's not that
It's
easy.
a lot deeper.
There's a
and
lot.
a lot wider.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's
A
always
lot
someone
wider.
watching. There's always something going on in the background. It's
I'm
never
the
just
victim.
People think you can just go out, buy an ounce, sell the ounce, make profit, buy another ounce, go bigger and bigger, and that's grand. You make your money. So you're
Doesn't
paying
work
that
like that.
fella. That's how easier it is. That's the case. We'd all be doing it.
Yeah, well, look, even you know, I like to peel stuff back to its roots. So you doing it, and I've done that stuff. You know what I mean? And I've got stuff in from other countries and all. But I've also over the years then been involved in stuff where kids were being used in them countries to process the stuff that I have here. So, you know, even for the people that are out and, you know, socially snorting coke at the weekend, you know, that have jobs and
And
families and all,
they're ethical.
they think they're doing no wrong because they're not selling it and they're not involved in the drugs or the gangs or stuff like that. They're buying it. So they're buying it off a drug gang. So every drug gang then is buying guns, buying bullets, right? So you're funding and feeding that. You're actually feeding that. You're funding that. And then it's like, has to get shipped in. So you see all these people, couriers and all, getting caught, stuff busting open in them and dying. Girls doing 10 years in the Doka Centre for bringing stuff in because you probably the mad lifestyle where they are, trying to get out of it, you know, all that. And then if you bring it back again, you've all these kids delivering it and running around or standing in it, you know what I mean? And they're all out their heads on it, not even knowing what's going on. So the impact is massive. It doesn't stop with you or the drug, because I do see people, start killing one another.
No.
We as a society have a responsibility in that stuff. I don't care what anyone says, you know what I mean? I realise I had a part to play in that. And it's why I do what I do today. You know what I mean? It's why I'm in recovery today. It's why I help those that come behind me, because I don't think people should have to go through that. And I do it to help wider society and their families. Like, I work as a youth justice worker, as you know, in Dublin's inner city. And the parents have said to me, even today, like, two parents, like, can't believe the change in them and this, that and the other. And the gratitude I was leaving, although I've done good work with that young person, and that young person is doing great, the impact that's having on that family is massive. And they can't understand it, you know what I mean? And the turnaround, like. So it also brings me back to when I was out there active and doing what I was doing. My family were doing that with me. When I was suffering from drug addiction, my family was suffering from drug addiction. So I know today, because I'm in recovery and I have a good life, my family have peace of mind.
Well, that's what we talk about all the time, like with people in addiction. It's not just them that's suffering, the whole family is. But then in recovery, it's the complete opposite.
The thing about addiction is, one of the two driving forces behind addiction is selfishness and fear. Selfishness and fear. But also, for me and for people out there, like, you know, pain is inevitable. Right? Pain is inevitable. But to live with it is a choice. Do you know what I mean? To suffer, that's a choice. You know, pain is always going to happen, but it's how you deal with it then, you know what I mean? And, you know, suffering is optional. Basically, it's optional. So when I suffer, my loved ones suffer, my friends suffer, my job suffers, the people I work with and work for suffer. You know what I mean? It's not just about me today, and that's what I think people need to realise, and society need to realise. It's not just about, sure, they're only bleeding addicts or they're killing one another. We have a responsibility. I always say, you wanna judge your society, have a look at your mental health system and your criminal justice system. I was only reading the out there the other day, they wanted to build that Thornton Hall for 2,200 prisoners. We've already, like, about, I think, a capacity of 4,000 prisoners. So what are we saying? We're just going to lock more people up. 51 million. Can you imagine the services you would get, the interventions and preventative stuff that you put in place for 51 million? They're still paying security guards out there $1,000 a week to security firms since 2016. Do you know what I mean? That was bought in 2005, and they're saying they've nowhere to do social housing, nowhere to build houses. You know, because it's not about homeless. Why? And addicts. Why is there no money put in them service? Because they don't translate into votes. Addicts don't vote. Homeless people don't vote. There's not enough addicts to, you know, change the demographic, and there's not enough homeless to change the demographic. So they don't know. You look at COVID. Millions. They had to pull millions out of their arse, right, to do whatever. Why? Because COVID is airborne, can be transferred, can land on the doorstep. The addict and the homeless person doesn't land on the doorstep. So you can pull money out when you need it, you know.
Yeah. So when you were talking about when you got out and you wanted to join the rat race, you realised this whole fucking hard man criminal act was a fugazi. Where'd you go from there?
Home. I just, like I said, it was hard, do you know what I mean, to break away from that, because there was all that fear of being hurt and being walked on. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, here you have this fella that's doing this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden now he wants to work and all. So, like, there was a whole process that had to happen. You know what I mean? You know, age, timing, maturity. You know, opportunities. You know, all that had to kind of fall into place as well. You know, I know you had to be willing to do it and go looking for it. And then when I did that, what I needed and the services and the support needed to be there as well, which wasn't. So it was another good number of years before I actually turned it around, like, you know what I mean? The last time I walked out the gates of prison was 2005.
So when did you get out and realise I wanted it to change? What year?
I wanted to change in prison. You know what I mean? I wanted it to change in 1994. I wanted this to change. Then when I walked out of prison in 2005, I was like, this has to fucking change, like, you know. And it was a slow process. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was all spiritual and I stopped doing X, Y, and Z very quickly. It was a de-escalation. Like I said, I started big.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of, you know, I stopped the big stuff and it kind of came down. And I went through a terrible phase, right, of going to a garage and get 30 euros worth of petrol, right? And I take 30 euros worth of sweets and jellies and fucking chocolates and sandwiches because society owed me. That was the mindset I had as an addict. Your fault, I used. It wasn't mine. No ownership.
When did you start using it?
I started using, when you say using, so I would have dabbled with drink and hash and stuff, you know what I mean? The drink probably from the age of about 14 up, and then messing around with hash and stuff like that, solvents, you know, Tipex tinners, you know, acid then would have come into the equation. And the whole e-scene kind of kicked off then in the early 90s as well. And just kind of, there was just a steady progression. Do you know what I mean? From one to the other to the other. Like I said, society is fluid. So is the drug culture. You look at the drug culture now, most people present the service polysubstance use, so it's crack, you know what I mean, and drink and tablets and all. Now you have these balloons and all that are whacking the canisters into them. Very few people come to the services now with heroin addictions. Society changes, drugs change, you know what I mean? So then we had an epidemic of heroin in, you know, the late 80s and early 90s, so we ended up getting wrapped up in that as well, you know. And it was like, I remember in prison someone saying, yeah, try this, get that into you. I was in oblivion, and I remember I was getting sick and all, but I remember something going on, and I was like, oh, I don't fucking deal with this. And my head can go to a savage place because of the stuff I've done in the past and knowing my capabilities, and this is not an ego thing. I think I've fucking mental health issues, right? So my head goes to a place, and if I stay in my head, that's going to happen. So if I'm sitting here and I'm visualising taking your head off, and because you're offending me or something, right?
I think he's trying to tell you something.
No. It becomes real, and the longer it goes on in my head, it starts to talk to me in my own voice. It's the same with addiction, and then it becomes a reality and an idea, and the obsession becomes a compulsion, and I'm gone. But I know that today, so I can address that stuff. So I know, like, when I'm up in my head, I'm a Tyrannosaurus Rex. When I'm down in my heart, my emotions, I'm a teddy bear. You know what I mean? And it's why I stay in recovery, because who I was, who I am, and what people miss is who I still fucking can be. you know, and this is why I do what I do today, you know what I mean? I do all the pro-social stuff, and, you know, I give back to society, you know, that the whole generative piece. But I took the gear, and I took it down in prison, and it was like, this is bleeding grey. Because I started to have nightmares, and I started to take that violence out of my head. My head was just blank. I wasn't feeling anymore, because I always knew I wanted to stop hurting people, and I knew I wanted to stop hurting because I wasn't cut from that cloth. You know what I mean? It was a reaction to the trauma in my life, like, you know what I mean? It built up like a pressure cooker, and I found it was the only way I could deal with things. Because no other skill sets. I was never taught any other way. None of the pro-social stuff that I had about me or skills was nurtured until prison. Like, come out of prison with as an FAI coach, a GAA coach, you know, acting skills, you know, learning to read and write, started playing the barrel on, started to learn the guitar. So there was so much more to me. It's terrible to say I realised that in prison.
Yeah, but I wasn't nurtured correctly outside of prison.
This is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So we could probably cut down massively on the prison population if we nurtured people from a young age, had the services in place, especially addiction services and all, and mental health services, and we put people that have mental health issues into mental health facilities and institutions where they get the proper help. You know, I worked for a service for 3 years on recent, and they done a study, and we had the most people coming out of prison to our service with mental health issues. We were like massive high. You know what I mean? I worked with violent offenders, Jack, joint age response to crimes that are targeted by Garda Síochána, the IPS Irish Prison Service, and the probation service. That these are violent offenders doing big sentences and all. They'd come out and we'd link in with them, support them, and do programs and all with them. But the massive proportion of them that had mental health issues, when I talking about schizophrenia and all, I was going to say crazy, but no pun intended. Just, you know, unbelievable. You know, unbelievable.
That's why we calling out for more addiction centres, for more of these things to come and play. Because we had Brian Penny on there recently, and Brian Penny has an unbelievable story as well, in terms of going from addiction to what he is today.
Academia, yeah.
And we say every week, the common bleeding section, we just shouldn't look at it. But I just happened to see something where someone was like, these two lads talking like every junkie is a genius and things like that, and it's like, that's not what we're trying to say. But if you nurture someone, there's so many...
I'm going to tell you something, right?
Go on.
You're out there, right, and you have a habit, right? Now, my habit at one stage, I might have been in a different position, but there was times where I stopped selling and I wasn't doing, and I was out engaging in criminal activity to get what I got, right? And I'd probably go through an 8 a day, a crack, and an 8 a heroin. And I put that into the context, you're looking at €400 or €500, right?
Yeah.
Now you tell me how clever I must have been. What I was doing was stupid. What I was doing to myself was stupid. But what I was doing to get it, the ways and means, it was ingenious.
Yeah.
And I've never met a stupid addict in my life. You meet addicts out there and they're 30 years in the street, 30 years surviving, putting drugs into themselves, and probably putting, you know, £1,000 a week into them. And then you have these people making comments like that, and they're probably on €300 a week walking.
Yeah.
And
That's not to take away people walking.
No,
The point I'm trying to make is people have got skill sets.
Yeah.
It's just putting them to the wrong. Just putting them into
it's
the
just
wrong
ignorance. And what we're saying, we're not saying like, every junkie is a genius, but we're saying every addict is a person.
Exactly.
And that needs to be addressed, and that needs to be
nurtured.
nurtured.
Potential to do something when they're not in the height of addiction.
Yeah, and these people can contribute to society, and they probably want to contribute to society as
I
well.
got asked after doing a talk, right, on trauma, right, a few years ago, and I got asked to do the TED Talk in Mountjoy Prison. Oh no, sorry, I was asked to come up and speak on trauma-informed practice and responses in the Bollox Centre, and it was a big affair, meals, just all the dignitaries in and ministers and all. I said no. They're looking at me, and there was a few people there from the job with me and all, and the senior probation officer. I said no. He says, why? I says, not biting me nose, I'll spite my face. As I said it in the TED Talk. Those people in that prison heard me talking, seen me. they had a face, right, and heard the story, right, but I didn't say anything about prison or anything in it, right, just the story, and they asked me to talk about it. I said, no, I said, because I'm in prison at 2,500, I said, and you wouldn't let me into the prison last week to do my job. So when it was faceless, and when it was a number coming across the desk from the Department of Justice, prison 2,500, 56 convictions, 17 years in prison, no, he's not getting in. But you've sat now and asked me because you've heard my story. I said, so behind everyone there's a story. It's not a justification. It's context.
Exactly.
And he said, I'm going to remember you. I said, do, because I'll remember you. And he came back to me then a year or two later and he was like, you've always stuck in my head. He said, there's something coming up. He said, around TED Talks and all. He said, and we've people coming in, we're going to bring them in. He said, but he said, I think you're the icing on the cake. He said, if you do it. Now, we struggled with it. And I said to him, I said, I'll do it. I said, but I'm going to call you out. You want me up there to encourage people to employ ex-offenders. You wouldn't let me in to do my job. But if you kind of unpack that, by not letting me in to do the job, prisoners weren't getting helped. Now, if I'm in there and I'm helping prisoners and I'm getting them out of addiction and they're finding ways to deal with their angers and all, well, then you as prison staff are a bit more safer from these 10 people. And there's probably 20 prisoners now after getting saved this year from being attacked, maybe a couple of prisoners. And then they come out into wider society. So it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? So every time you put someone down like that and don't give them that chance, if people have been putting me down like that and I hadn't got the strength to stand up, I wouldn't be in the job I'm doing today helping. I wouldn't have the academic stuff I've done. I wouldn't have done all the podcasts and talks and interviews I've done that have helped people. I've had people come to me, we spoke about it, some of the hardest men in this city coming to me and saying, I can't believe, you fair play to you, blah, 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 happened to me and all, and any suggestions or where can I go and who can I talk to? But I don't want anyone knowing. That's all right that they don't want anyone knowing, but they're coming, they're revealing themselves now, they're being fucking vulnerable and they're going to services. And when I go into a Narcotics Anonymous meeting and I share my experience, strength and hope, that impacts somebody as it did me. I remember going into my first meeting in Abbey Street, right? This fella I thought was dead, right? Head case, was in next to me in cells for years, right? Mad addict, but mad, but that has great qualities and genius with stuff, great football and all, right? And walked into a meeting and he's in the meeting crying about a relationship breakup. And I start getting embarrassed. I was like, why am I getting embarrassed? He's the one crying. But I realised in that moment, it was like, this is someone I looked up to, and if people thought I was a bit wild, I would say this fella was two of me, and just in that moment, that realisation, it was powerful. This fella I knew that was mad and in prison for years, I thought was either dead or doing a life sentence, was in a meeting being vulnerable. I'd never experienced that with people before. I'd never experienced that with people that I'd walked the landings with, that I shared cells with, that I'd done criminality with. I'd never experienced that before. And that's what I said, there's something in this, you know what I mean? Being vulnerable and allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
That's what I say all the time about us, we're so vulnerable doing this podcast. And like you were saying, I think when people see vulnerability, they feel like that they can open up. Because we get an awful lot of messages in terms of journeys to sobriety, in terms of things that we talk about, even criminality and things like that.
I've had
people
letters
open
off
up.
school kids. I've had school kids come up to me after doing presentations in colleges and schools and tell me that their father or their mother is X, Y and Z, or their mates and this, that and the other, or blah, blah, blah. And for the first time they're opening up. Because when I do presentations in school, I'll go in, I'll do the first bit, we'll introduce what it's about, who we are and all, and then I ask the teachers to leave.
Yeah.
And that's because they'll ask more questions and engage more when the teacher's not there.
Definitely, yeah.
Because it's that authority figure again. Do you know what I mean? And you're telling them stuff and then they're sitting there, and I've had people come up and say, you just told me Dad's story, but you're at the other end of it now, how you got there and all, and kids are asking them, where did you go through, what services did you go through, how did you do it, people are coming up to you, and so I think the more...
It must feel unbelievable though, does it?
Yeah, at times it's great. I'm getting shivers there now. I got these letters of a group of schoolgirls that had done a presentation in school, and I was just I was blown away, you know what I mean? the messages and the stories that they were telling me, like, and I still have skills now, even though I don't do because I'm full-time working. I still have skills in colleges and Malahide and all. They're always on to me. Will you come out, and or they'll get on to the thing and say, can you get Wayne out or whatever, you know. So yeah, look, it works. I think the more transparent and open that people are, you know what I mean, coming from this lifestyle. I've had kids that say, what would you fucking know? 17 years of sentences, 56 things, I was in addiction for 22 years. You tell me what you know. And they're looking at you, you know what I mean? I have a certain way of working with people because there's hooks, you know, the hook for change, like, you know.
Wayne, can you just touch on, right, so you're out of prison 2005, because one of the things that it struck me, because I watched that TED Talk and I encourage everybody to go and watch it. It was fucking brilliant. So Wayne Hart TED Talk in Mountjoy 2019, I think it was.
So,
yeah. But the obstacles and the barriers that you faced and the challenges.
I even teamed that myself. I said, no, I'm not running with your team. I'm going to call this, you know, building bridges, not barriers. Because if we don't start to pull down them bridges, them barriers in society, you know, what's the point? There's no point me going across the bridge and get to the other side and there's just a big fucking barrier and I'm just walking back. I'm just going to come back over to what I know. You know what I mean? I need a new direction, you know. So many, like, I wanted to be a social worker. You know, I went to college and it's on a social work path. I applied for social work masters, do the interview, do great in the interview, had the grades. Then they call me up. Fortunately, we can't put you forward to be a social worker. Why? Because you have a criminal record. It can't put you with TUS, it can't put you in the hospitals, it can't put you in the probation service. So me criminality impacted that. So there's also that thing out there of you need to be straight with people. So I'm on a social work path. I had to do a placement on the diploma, right? So I had to get guard vet and all. That never came back. They had to call me in and all. I wasn't graduating. You heard in the TED Talk. Wasn't graduating. A couple of days before graduating, they pulled the stroke, got in touch with someone, a guard that went through the college or whatever, and they got me convictions. Asked me, I told them, and they said, well, you haven't lied, and you know, they were kind of blown away, like where I was, where I come from, because they didn't see that the same Wayne as Wayne is today. They didn't see Harty, they didn't see the nickname, the image, the ego. So they were blown away, and I was walking back across the campus, and the phone rang. Are you still on campus? No. Because I thought they were going to tell me, not graduating. Can you come back over? We would like you to go and do the degree. I says, what? We'd like you to do an honours degree. And I was like, in what? Social science, sociology. And I said, I'm not fucking wearing a white coat, I said, and goggles and all. I said, social science. And they were like,
Wrong kind of science.
That's not what social science is. And they were just laughing. So we just engaged in the process. There's no understanding what sociology and social science was. But then I get through that, get the high grades, get the 200 I need, and go to do my masters. And I'm told no. Why wasn't I told that first when I done my application or when I couldn't get the guard of vetting? You know what I mean? That I couldn't get placed in a job because of the criminal record. So I was like, what are you doing? Throwing 40, 50 grand at me and Susie grants and stuff. I said, just to come out. And then it was the whole thing of, or do they realise or think that someone coming from my background
Can achieve this.
won't go on to do the masters.
Exactly, yeah.
Won't go on to do the masters. I wasn't leaving college without masters. I didn't care what I got the masters in. I didn't care if it was in bullshit. I wasn't leaving college without masters. Then I got offered 2 of the masters and I took the one that suited me, criminology, criminal justice. Who better to do criminology, criminal justice than being criminal?
But it does make sense. So, do you know what I mean?
So I'm saying about skill sets.
Yeah.
So I took that niche and I've turned it around. I've turned it into a positive, you know?
Yeah.
So you got into the masters.
I got into the masters in criminology, criminal justice and UCD School of Law, yeah.
Yeah, how'd you go on with that?
Yeah, I ended up getting a granted a internship in the prison to do a study of the CBHFA program, which is the community-based community health-based first aid program. I can't remember the acronyms of it, and to do a study of that. So I was like, no, I'm not going to go into the prison. You will, you'll be grand, this, that, and the other. And all goes up with the lecturer, goes in, walking around, and they're like, put your hand in there and make sure that's locked and all that. Yeah. she's telling me to make sure that the prison gates are locked. I'm going through the landings up in Wheatfield and all now, Clover Hill, and I'm sitting down with bleeding governors that's retiring, right? And I'm sitting there and I said, this fella, I remember giving him a bang of a piss pot back in Patrick's, and I'm sitting there and I said, I don't fucking
But they don't know who you are.
No, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, like 18 back then or whatever, and at this stage I'm 48, it's 30 years later, like, so he's retired, and he actually started in 88 when I was there, so he's 30 years was up.
It's gone full circle.
Right? And I'm like, this is not, I'm waiting on the camera or someone to jump out and say, you know what I mean? I was like, what's going on here? It was really surreal, like, talk about full circle. And, well, I don't like saying full circle. Full circle bring me back to where I was. A 190, yeah. Bit of a handbreaker there, right in the Ballybock Road. But no, so I'm sitting there and I walks out and I says, I'm telling you, now goes back up a few weeks later. Someone realises that's fucking my Hart. Right? Didn't get back in.
So I don't think people actually realise this. So if you've been locked up in that prison, you're not allowed to go back up and visit then, aren't you?
No.
Wrong. Here's one for you. After the TED Talk, the Director General of the Prison Service comes up to me, crying. This has to stop. I'm sending an email out tomorrow, she said. I'm CCing you in an email to every prison in this country, 14 of them. She said, you will be granted access into prisons to do your job. She said, there's no blanket no. She sent me on the policies and all. It's what they call local clearance. So you actually can go into the prison if you're an ex-offender.
It depends on the prison.
Depends on the prison governor.
It's up to them, yeah.
So
So
it's actually up to the governor. So
Local.
it's not like a law.
It's not across the board. It's not even a policy or an act. Nothing. It's actually nothing.
because I know so many people that they get out and they're bleeding their best mates up there that they're being bunked up with them and they can't go up and see them.
But also now you have to put it in context as well. I mean, like, if you know, I got out of prison, or I was in prison and you and me best mate and you got out and you're up to your neck in criminality,
Yeah.
I can't let you back in to see me, and you have to accept that and
So what
acknowledge that.
justifies you getting stopped going back then after 30 years? You have to be now you're going.
No, it
down
doesn't.
your talk.
It was nothing to justify.
Just shows
it,
the system
and
doesn't believe in rehabilitation in every case.
well, the Director General.
Looked after you in the long run, but you got
And
to
the
run around
Director
now.
General is the criminal justice system.
So
part of
can
the
you
criminal justice
go,
system.
let's say Terence was locked up and I wanted to go and visit him and I'm at the being locked up, say 2 years prior, can I go and make a case to them and say, look,
Yeah.
rather than just being like, oh, you're on file here, that's a no.
It's actually probably done on an individual basis. Like, I have a great relationship now with the Governor of Mountjoy. Done some great work with him. This is who refused me to get in the first place, and like that relationship is built so much so that last year, unfortunately, COVID happened. We were going to have the first ever audio-visual Narcotics Anonymous convention, where we'd have people in the prison sharing their experience, strength and hope, to a convention in a hotel, on screen, audio-visual, and they do their readings and all. It's
Mad.
never happened in an Irish context. He stood over all that. He just said, when you go away, put it together and come back. And I went, put it together, and he was like, Jesus Christ, there's nothing we really have to do with this. I said, yeah, because I've been in the system, I know what the story is. You know what I mean? I said, so I know the logistics and so we were going to have 50 people up in the governor's office, right? And Narcotics Anonymous members there with them, giving them the books and stuff like that. But we were going to have, I said, look, this can't just be the progression unit. I said, because we need to be reaching the ones that are still using. So we're having 50 prisoners from the progression unit, the DOCUS, females, the medical unit, and the male jail. Now, if you've ever been in prison, you would realise the logistic headache and nightmare that is to bring all those prisoners from 4 different places in that compound, and especially bring the female prisoners over and all, you know, and around the medical unit and all. So he stood over all that. The 11th was happening on the 13th. The 11th of March, boom. Court out, COVID, everything. HSA, boom, shut down.
But it goes to show the intent is there though.
That's rehabilitation.
Yeah.
That is rehabilitation.
The Governor General standing over me getting into the prisons to help prisoners, that's rehabilitation. So it's not as cut and dry as there's no rehabilitation.
No,
Yeah,
of
because
course
you know what,
not, but
man,
it's nearly like the case of the bad apples. But Of course, look, I don't believe the system fully believes in rehabilitation.
But you know what? It's not just rehabilitating you; it's rehabilitating them.
Exactly.
So they're not judging every book by its cover. Then, yeah, and it's probably better that it goes case by case basis then, because they probably go case by case basis in life and
There's
in
a lot of
society.
misconceptions out there. Unless you actually have the experience of going through that system or that process, it's like you will hear people say, "Oh, doctors won't let you off methadone or put you into a treatment centre because they get 50 quid a day for everyone they give methadone to." That's utter bollocks.
Yeah.
Right? Utter bollocks. The real reason behind it is we've 22 government detox beds for 25,000 addicts. So what do? The doctors keep prescribing the methadone to try and cut down on HIV, hepatitis C, crime. You know what I mean? So that actually helps society giving them, although people stay in it for a long time, it's hard to get off. It's one thing me going in saying to a doctor, I want a detox, I want to go in somewhere. Well, you have to get 5 counselling sessions, so you need a counsellor now to do all that stuff. So there's a bit of a time process. You're going away, Beaumont Hospital, St. Michael's Ward, 9-month waiting list. Now, 9 hours in the life of an addict can be a long time. It can be a long time in the life of anyone's life. 9 months, fucking eternity. I've seen people, and I've done referrals for people in services, never reached 3 months, died, dead, committed suicide, couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? We need a lot more services. I think when it did work was like in 1996, like it was the kind of first paradigm shift in drug and alcohol policy in an Irish context. Like, so you had the Rabbit report where he realised that we need to work from the ground up, not from the fucking top down. No use minister sitting up there, like I spoke about earlier, the pandemic and all, no use minister sitting up there saying, this is what needs to be done. You've actually no experience. Listen to the people on the ground, the likes of Tony Gregory and Christy Buck. They were advocates for all that. They started all them drug programmes and the rehabilitation and all. But what's the 4 services every year to be hit? With funding. The drug services, the homeless services, crazy stuff like, counsellors, all them counselling services and all, they're the ones where they take the funding fund, put it into something else.
So you managed to convince these people in the institutions that housed you for years that people can change.
People say a leopard never changes spots. I fucking skinned that leopard. I didn't just change my spot. I fucking skinned them.
Yeah.
So-
But it proves, though, you know what I mean? Like, change is possible.
Given the right opportunities,
Definitely.
timing,
Nurture someone correctly.
services.
If you want to change, it will change. You know what I mean? Not everybody's going to come out of prison.
Some people don't have the capacity to even think along them lines of changing, but us as professionals need to encourage that and nurture that. You know what I mean?
So
Right.
you talked about on your TED talk about your job application process
Oh, Jesus. Don't
And-
mention the war.
and the sections of it.
Fuck's sake.
The section of like, do you have a criminal record? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And if you said yeah, go into detail. So one thing that stuck in my head, Wayne, is is there like a bias in there? Is there a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other? Do you know what he done? It was bad, but we let him in. But what he done now, we let that's
There's a
not
bear
what
shot
we
in the
know.
woods. Do you know what I mean? Like, and how I was able to speak about that openly, and I'll never say anything I can't stand over, prove or back up.
Yeah.
That's always been the way I was, even when I was in a negative. I never done anything or took anyone on or anything on that I wasn't going to finish. Do you know what I mean? And the same with that. So I have friends, a lot of people that come through addiction and recovery end up working in the services because we like to get back and help people. And I have people in services where we're telling me there's jobs here and all. And I had them ring me, 1 or 2 of them ring me, 3 people in total. Yeah, you were shortlisted, but seeing the criminal convictions, it's been put to the end of the list. Another person rang me one day and says, Wayne, not going to say anything. I said, but apply somewhere else for a job. Because you're not getting a look in here. And then someone else told me that they actually threw me application in the bin. Now, at that point, of a level 3 in rehabilitation studies, of a level 5 in addiction studies, of a level 6 in group work theory and practice, of a level 7 diploma in community drugs and alcohol work, of an honours degree in social science, sociology, and of a master's in criminology and criminal justice at that point, and I had 2 publications in the European during the probation.
So you're overqualified.
Overqualified.
I've had people give me the weirdest bullshit. One service I went through, I rang them, I said, can I get feedback? I said, this is because a mate of mine got the job, right? He only had the diploma, with no criminal record on it, right? And can I get feedback? Oh, I said, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, that's terrible. And I said, I strongly think it was because of my convictions. Oh, no. We employ 8% of people that come to that profile. Oh, I was annoyed, and I said, so you have 92% of staff that know fuck all. I was being smart, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you put it in context, so you have 8% of this massive organisation with 70 odd places, 8% of probably 1,000 staff spread over fucking 72 buildings. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, no. And they've since come back to me as well twice, offered me jobs, and no, wouldn't work for them. You know, and I put in an application with a crack for a job within the subsidiary of the probation service. Anyway, he says, you mad, fuck it. He said, fuck it. He said, I said, you don't know. Like you said earlier, you know, shy child doesn't get any fucking sweets, like, you know what I mean?
Fed, yeah.
So I put it in. I got shortlisted. I got an interview. I couldn't fucking believe it. So I went and done the interview. Walked over, grand, came back. So I get an email off them, and they said, unfortunately at this time, I said, yeah, me bollocks, you know what I mean? And I didn't read the rest of the email, right? Because it was one of these generic emails, so I had to get loads of them. And it's normally, you know, due to the high number of applications and participants, and we wish you best and everything and all. So about a week later, I think it was a day off, it was six days later, I was going into my emails, and I've mild ADD, right? So I can get drawn from things, or I'm fully focused, or I'm taken away, you've lost me. I'm watching telly, and I can watch telly, and I can type a story and listen to music at the same time. It's whatever way my head works. And whatever I tapped into wrong, I opened up and I was saying, and if you would like this, just let us know. I read it. So what the email actually said was that they decided, because of the high, it's competency-based test, so I got a very high score, and I'd outscored a lot of people that had already worked in this field and were coming back to it, and I was only outscored by 2 that had worked in it before, but it was like 13, 14 points ahead of the nearest person behind me with not having worked in that field. So it was saying like, we decided to make a panel. We weren't going to make a panel, but there was a very minimal score between me and who was second. So we've offered it to number 1, and if a job comes up in the next 6 months, would you be willing to take it if you're not working? I was like, hell fucking yes. And like, yeah, no bother. About 10 days later, I'm out with the little one, packing the messages in, and the phone call comes in, and it's the manager. Yeah, this time doing the job, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Get out to the car. I looked around the little one, it's only like 3 or something. This says, I think I'm after getting a fucking job, right? I says, no, I think I'm after getting a fucking job. So I bet home in the car, and I went into my wife and I said, I think I'm after getting offered a job. And she was like, fuck, you can't even get an interview. She says, you've had one interview. She said, where's the job? McDonald's. That's not take away when you're working at McDonald's. Like, I have a master, so I'm looking for a bit more than McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, and I says, no. I had to ring them back, and they always laugh about it in the job they did. I had to ring them back and said, did you just offer me a job? It's like something out of a fucking comedy show.
Just tell her, will you? Did you offer me the job?
Did you? No, I wasn't even sure. I said, did you just offer me a job? She started laughing. She says, yeah. She says, when can you start? I said, Monday. She says, well, she said, I can meet you Mondays to go through the contract and stuff like that. No, I was afraid the job was going to go away from me. It was like walking back across the campus in the college. Oh, they're ringing me to tell me I'm not graduating. Because that's my fucking experience, you know what I mean, with stuff. And due to me own fucking, you know, actions. But, yeah, so I got the fucking job. And I was like, how did I get the job? I said, there was one in front of me, and someone said, I don't know what happened with the other 2, but I ended up getting the job, and it was in the subsidiary of the probation service. It was in this, you know, probation structure. So I was working with your clients, like as I was talking about earlier. And then when I applied for the job that I'm in now, they'd actually said to me, we knew we wouldn't keep you. We knew this was always going to be a stepping stone for you. You know, you bit of a rocky start with stuff like, because you'd never worked and all, but you're willing and you'll do it, and you know you have to do it and you'll do it. And because we had this fear, he said, but you've just fucking like blossomed, do you know what I mean? And like with the lads and the groups, and like you're good at what you do. So I have that on a CV now, like, you know what I mean? And going forward, and now, as you know, I'm a youth justice worker in Dublin's inner city as well.
So that kind of skips the criminal record process, doesn't it? When people say, oh, he has that, but how did he get here?
Yeah.
So they kind of overlook that.
Because as you said about that application process, it's like I was involved in that program that in the UK banned the box. So like I said in the TED Talk, so question 5, have you a criminal record? Yes. I've always found best policy to be honest.
Yeah.
So the right thing will happen at the right time for the right person for the right reason, you know, when you're doing the right thing. So yes, question 6, if you've answered yes to question 5, please elaborate and give details of your box about this. So it's like, how am I getting 56 convictions now? I'm not fucking writing 56 convictions, but what I would do is I'd write the heavy ones, I'd write the armed robbery, I'd write the fucking manslaughter, you know, I'd write them in, the drug deal and all that kind of stuff, because I'm like, the rest aren't going to impact. And I remember in the job I'm in now, and fair play to the job I'm in now and the manager, he said, like, I said, I don't want to be wasting anyone's time. I said, criminal convictions, I have to tell you. He said, well, it'd be grand as long as it's not X, Y, and Z. I said, it actually is X, Y, and Z, right? So he's like, oh, so he's like, I've never had a disclosure like that before. So he said, I've no problem interviewing you. He said, you know, and he went to the board or wherever, and wherever he had to go, and they said, yeah, no bother, you know. But I strongly believe that was because of having and worked, you know what I mean, within the probation structure as well. So, you know, it was worth taking a chance on.
And I suppose the main reason why we have you here, Wayne, is the Get the Message Out programme.
Yeah, so the Get the Message Out programme is looking at drugs, intimidation and violence, and to know that there is another way, that people don't have to continue on that route, or if they're on that journey and that process already, that there is a way out, that you can always step off the train at any stoplight, you know what I mean? But what's important as well for me is that it doesn't have to be you or me that comes, because sometimes when you're caught up in addiction or violence, you don't see it for what it is, you haven't got that capacity, you might have that fear, you know what I mean? You know, and not wanting to go and do that. So big brother steps in and makes that call. A family member steps in, a mate steps in. I've had people that played for teams and the managers would step in. So it's like I said earlier, as a society we have a responsibility to help one another, you know. So I think the important part of this is you can call or text for support 085 132 9821, and there's a number of services, especially in the Coolock, Kilbarrack, Darndale area, you know, that have helped me over the years and are still helping people to this day, and do a lot more than just bring you in and talk to you, like, you know what I mean? They will nurture you, they will see, they'll even tell you if they're not the right service for you, but they will direct you to another service, like, you know. It's not like you're going in and it's like, oh, there's nothing we can do with you here, but there's a prescription for Valium. You know, no use, you know, not to say that people don't need certain medications, but, you know, if they're illegal or they're street drugs, you know, and you're struggling with it, you know, and even if it's around, you know, family support or the prison, and as I said, my experience now with the prison is that there is people up there that will listen and that will talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, it doesn't have to be the end all or be all. It's kind of like you've seen a lot of people engaged now over the last few years, and the stats coming out of, you know, kids getting wrapped up in it and being groomed, you know. And I was asked to go on the Clareburn show there the other night around grooming, but I hadn't got that experience. As I said, I think this is the part where I get to say what I would love to do: run a campaign of sell your own drugs, leave the fucking kids alone. You know, because you're setting people up to fail, misery, a life of fucking misery. You know, dead at a young age, in prison at a young age. I mean, we've 2 now in 2 or 3 in Orbistown for murder. Watch that explode. This shit keeps up.
And that's programs like this, you know, intervention, preventative measures, stop a problem before it escalates.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're caught up in it already, we can still help you.
Yeah.
There's still services there to help you.
Suppose, how well, Joe Redmond's involved?
J.R. Edmonds involved, yeah.
Former guest of the podcast, Terrence's best mate.
Yeah, triathlon. Triathlete, is he? Triathlon, what?
Triathlete.
Or a triathlon, no, not triathlete. Yeah, look, and everyone, as I said, has their own skill sets, and I'm sure Jay could do stuff like that if people wanted to get involved. I don't know what he actually does, like, you know what I mean, but I would envisage that, you know, you could get together.
We've had him on the podcast before.
One of these services could, you know, bring him in to do workshops or, you know, training sessions or whatever, you know what I mean, and with people. Sometimes even just about the story, the amount of services now that, and people I've had on to me that have used. I just seen your TED Talk today in work, you know, so there is stuff out there that you can do, and I think having that lived experience and knowing there's a way out and having, you know, having
living
the
proof
evidence,
sitting here in front of us.
the evidence, like, you know, like I used to think, you need to have, you know, evidence that I can stay clean, you know what I mean, or that there's a way out. I have that every morning when I wake up and look in the mirror.
Yeah.
I don't need anyone else to empower me, because I've empowered myself with the help of services.
And I think
programs.
that's what sums up this podcast, man. This has been very empowering, and I don't even know how we're going to sum this one up now. We're going to have to try and sum this up.
And you have to do a car video.
And we're going to have to put a 60-second video up trying to summarise what's at the happening here. But it's been emotional, Wayne. Thanks very much for coming in.
Look, lads, it was great to come in, you know. I hope it helps someone.
Yeah, if it helps one person, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I always say it, do you know what I mean? If I can help one person today, it's job done, because I took from fucking society for so long and I was caught up in all that bullshit. Because that's what it is, bullshit. Bullshit.
Look, it was a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, man.
You're a legend. Jamie,
up.
take us out,
Take us out, Jamie.
Boom.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
What you waiting for? Put your back in it. Just a little more. Throw your weight in it now. Tell your body you can. Walk it hard and long. When you finish that
The hip knocker.
song, go down.